The goal of mindfulness. G'day, I'm Stuart McDonald. I'm just doing a little mini series on what mindfulness is, what it looks like, and how we can appropriate it. I'm doing it complete with my squeaky chair because I can. And in fact, I tried a different chair and it's just as squeaky as the other one. So, anyway, mindfulness. In our last post, I talked about the contemplative practices of mindfulness, and I explored a little bit the Orthodox Christian version of that called watchfulness, just because I think that term helps to understand mindfulness better. Mindfulness has got a lot of baggage. There's a lot of people who mean a lot of different things when they use the word mindfulness. Are you a psychologist? What kind of a psychologist are you? Are you a psychiatrist or a GP? Are you an exercise physiologist? Are you a yoga practitioner or a Pilates practitioner or a Zen Buddhist practitioner? Are you a Shaolin monk or a martial artist? All of these people will use mindfulness in ways that overlap but have important distinctions between them. And it's really important for us to be aware of that. And so I decided to use the word watchfulness because it captured the essence of what I was talking about when I talked about contemplative mindfulness. This idea of watchfulness, of mindfulness, one of the important things about being mindful is that, this is a strange thought, that we do it with no particular goal in mind. Now that sounds really odd. What I mean by that is that we do it as a means, as a way of being. So from an ontological coaching perspective, the way of being has to do with how you listen to and observe your world, both your internal world and your external world, and how you observe those. Your way of being comes from the stories, the listening that you have, and the learnings that you have about your life. And we're in those listenings and learnings every minute of every day. We're listening, learning. Whether we're listening and learning from our internal dialogue, or listening and learning from our world of experience, or listening and learning from our bodily and physical experience. All of those things are impacting how we see the world today, how we exist in the world today, how we be in the world, our way of being. And if you think about the way, what does it mean to live life? What's the way that you should live? The way of being. Mindfulness is a way of being in any given moment. And mindfulness can inform what we do, think and feel. As a byproduct of mindfulness, we can get calmer in our thinking. We can have stress reduction. We can have our mind more able to focus on things. But these are just byproducts of mindfulness. When we make them our goal, I think we miss the fact that mindfulness is a way of being rather than a means to an end. If it is a means to an end, we run the risk of stopping doing it as soon as we think we've reached our goal. So in order for me to get calmer, I'm going to be mindful. We become mindful for a time. I reduce my anxiety and my stress, or I don't, which is a very common experience in people with anxiety. They get told to do mindfulness. They do mindfulness. It doesn't work for them, and often it exacerbates their feelings, and they give up on that process. Not realizing that mindfulness is both a mindset and a discipline. The two need to merge together. It's not about doing only one or only the other. It's about bringing them together like this. So we say the goal is to do this, and if they achieve their goal or they don't achieve their goal, they give up on being mindful, and then they run the risk, or we humans run the risk of then living mindlessly, and all of the things that can go with that. Erroneous decisions. We keep living in our old perspectives, our old ways of being. We keep causing harm to ourselves and to others. We cease to grow. We cease to grow as much as we can. And at the end of the day, all of this leads to a distinct lack of thriving and a distinct emphasis on just kind of floating along. So mindfulness, the goal of mindfulness is to be mindful. That's it. The goal of mindfulness is to be watchful. The goal of mindfulness is simply to exist in a mindful, watchful way. When we do this, we have other benefits. For example, our stress diminishes. Why? One of the reasons is probably because when we're mindful, we're curious about what is and what could be. We're open to learning new things. This means that instead of saying life has to be this way, and when life isn't that way and life is this way, this big gap, it generates a stress response. We become stressed. But if we're mindful, we can become curious. We can say, I'd like life to be this way, but it's not. I wonder why. I wonder what I can get out of it. I wonder what I can give in it. I wonder how I can thrive. I wonder how I can help others thrive. And we start asking different questions and we become curious about it. As we become curious about this new way of being, the hard line of what should be becomes much softer, and we become more flourishing, more fulfilled, like a tree rising toward the sun with water, roots, and light making it flourish. Why? Because we're not trying to grow in one direction, we're spreading out toward the light, and we're spreading down and out toward the nourishment. As we spread down and out toward the nourishment, up and out toward the light, we grow, we thrive, we flourish. Where things flourish, other things come to flourish. If we are flourishing, others will flock there. And we can flourish with them because then they'll be flourishing, and together we flourish. We create this process of flourishing with each other. And that comes because we're mindful, because we look at this moment through a curious perspective, and we become flexible in what we allow to be and what we think can be, what we think should be. And so mindfulness as the goal is a much healthier and much more thriving way of doing mindfulness. Whereas mindfulness as the means to an end, not as sustainable. Now, you might find that you get into mindfulness as a means to an end, and that's fine. That's really helpful. In fact, that's how we get into most things. Most of my clients with exercise and mindfulness, when they stick at it for long enough, what happens is, whereas before they had this goal and they just wanted to do X, Y, Z, over time it becomes a joy. It becomes less about that one physical goal or whatever it is, or that one health indicator, and it becomes more about the enjoyment, the process of exercising. Exercising becomes part of their way of being. And so it is with mindfulness, that it can become part of our way of being. And so I encourage you to think about mindfulness not as a means to an end, but as a goal within itself. And that can make it far more enjoyable and far more sustainable for everyone. It really can. Really, really can. This is me signing off.